welcome to another edition of TechTalk. Thank you all for taking time on your schedule to come see us. And today we have Oren Golan, who's going to be presenting Node.js. Now, if you have no idea what Node.js is, wonderful, welcome. If you are in the wrong meeting, leave now. Assume everyone here knows that Node.js is here. If not, just stay. You're going to learn something very interesting. He promises not to pick a fight with any of the Rubyists in the room. Promise, right?
They lost and they know it. So. I don't think there's a. It's like an adult, fighting a little kid, and it's not gonna be fair.
Should anything offensive happen, I will be right there. I'll be the bouncer and make sure that. But anyway, not any further ado.
I'm supposed to handshake. It's like a TCP thingy, and no, get it. Oh, I'm good. So hi, I'm Oren. I work with the DS tool team. Do you ever happen to you that you went to a 1-hour presentation and within a minute or two into the talk, you realize that you're going to get bored out of your mind and you're sitting way at the back, so you can't escape because it's embarrassing. People will see you. And Kuba, your manager, sits right next to you, so you can't even go to sleep. Am I the only one? Oh, Shri, where are you? Oh, right here. Oh, okay, good. Well, today's your lucky day because what I'm trying to do is to use the interesting format called Ignite. And the idea is, ooh, you're late. Who's your boss? So the idea is to use Ignite, which is a 5 minutes presentation, and it's 20 slides, 15 seconds each slide, and they're just running automatically, so I can't stop and pause, and there's no questions. Good for me, because there's no time for questions. In 15 seconds a slide, you're going to be overwhelmed probably. I will be just humiliated because I'm not gonna make it on time because it's really hard. And that's basically the idea. So at the end of it, I hope that you get an idea at the end of the 5 minutes, an idea of what Node is, and then you can make a decision if you're gonna stay here and sleep at the back or go to your cube and sleep over there or whatever you guys are doing. And that's basically it. What I did actually, I like the impress.js. It's on GitHub. It's a nice format to present using CSS transforms and the JavaScript. So it creates nice animation. So I cloned it and I just added a little bit of JavaScript on the side here, which is the Ignite style. So it's kind of Ignite and Impress, and I call it Ignite.js. I don't know. So I hit space, and then we have 20 slides. And some of you guys will be kind of like the OCD guys, like Andrew, will stare at the numbers. So Andrew probably would have no idea what I was talking about. So I have to repeat myself. Some of the slides have some code, and it's kind of weird to try to understand code in 15 seconds. So I don't expect you guys to understand everything, but it will be fun. So Node.js. So the idea behind Node is to write JavaScript, but on the server. That's kind of like the bottom line. And I started using Node about 3-4 months ago, and I'm pretty much in love. Hopefully you guys will fall in love as well. Using the V8, which is what running Chrome, created by a guy named Ryan Dahl. He was in New York doing his PhD, trying to build web server in Ruby, but it was not fast enough for him. And the way that Ruby handled concurrency, it's using threads, and it was super slow, and memory and CPU, it just didn't work. So he said, Google came with the V8, it was 2006. Let's try to use JavaScript. Everybody knows JavaScript, and put it on the server under the V8. 2009, you can Google for it. He presented in Germany. It was amazing. It was a standing ovation at the end of his 45-minute talk. And Joint adopted him or sponsored him, and he works for them. Now we're in version 08, which is already stable since, I think, 06, so ignore the numbers. The main point here is evented and non-blocking I/O, which I'll explain in a second. I did some, and I wanted to see how many lines. There's about 40K. Half of them is JavaScript. So you can see the JavaScript sits on the top, and then you have some bindings, C bindings, and at the end you have the V8 and the libuv. The libuv is a secret sauce that creates the event loop and created the thread pooling that I'll explain. That's kind of like I/O, and to understand that the most expensive I/O is your HTTP code to external services. It's really, really expensive. It's like years compared to like the cache CPU. And the disk is also very, very expensive. And that's the way that you can deal with it. Normally in Ruby, in most of the languages, you do it in a synchronous way. You can fork a new process. You can also create multiple threads, but you're paying a lot for memory and you're paying for CPU. It's very, very expensive. You have multiple threads, the CPU running around. And that's a pseudocode for what usually you're doing. You're making a call to a query, to a database.query, and you just wait. The server cannot accept more requests. He waits for I/O. And this is a pseudocode of event loop. It just ignore the crazy code. Think of an infinite loop while one, and then something happens. And I'll explain what is this something that is happening. And that's kind of like JavaScript. I know that you know from client side, you're passing a function to my query function. By passing a function, you're actually adding this function to the queue that the event loop is listening to. Scary, but don't worry. Nginx worked with event loop, and Apache used to work with without it. It used to spawn an extra another thread per request. That's why the memory of Nginx is way tiny than the other one. Same with requests per second. That's just a benchmark for Hello World. It's pretty impressive. About 50 meg and 5,000 requests per second. For Node.js. JavaScript, the language, is actually a very interesting language that for evented I/O. And in JavaScript, you have closures. If you don't know what it is, I'll explain later. It lets you basically have all the variables that are available to the function when you create the function in the execution time, which is great for multiple I/O and nesting of functions. The design goals of Node.js is to make it very, very appealing for people who like the Unix philosophy and like kind of like building small little creatures that can communicate together, and also for client-side JavaScript that are already familiar with event loop and asynchronous calls. So this is the main concept, callback. So basically, the idea is to never block the request, never, ever, ever block the request, because I/O is expensive. The other main or core concept is streams, and many people who are doing Node even for years, which is weird, though it's only like a few years exist, they don't really know what streams are and how to use them. So I'll try to explain myself how to use it. The idea here is, unlike Ruby or Java, the core library is very tiny, very small. And the idea is to have like HTTP, TCP, file system, and DNS and stuff like this. And that's it. The rest will be added by the community, userland, which is NPM is the way that Ruby jams, but way, way better. NPM install, NPM search, NPM publish to publish your package. And it's called a package, not a gem. That's amazing, and I'll show you how to use it. And the idea here is, instead of what you guys are used to, classical inheritance from Java, you inherit to get Rails or Sinatra. In Node, you just use it. So you get a function and you can just use it. So you have a function, create server. Oops, I'm done. And you're late. So that's about it. I mean, that's kind of like any question, anything that I should repeat. I would assume that there's many things I should kind of, yeah.
So what does the I/O, or what runs the I/O?
You see here. That's my GitHub, by the way. Everything that I am showing you, including the slides and the code, is there. So check it out. Let's go back. Okay. Where's the, yeah. So basically you have this this infinite loop, right? And it's the libuv is basically the library that inside it you can find it's like a C and C++ code that I don't understand, but there's some sort of an infinite loop that whenever you make an I/O call, you tell your computer, hey, do your stuff. When you're done, that's the function that you should call. Okay, and the libuv knows kind of to handle it, give it to the V8, which gives it to whatever, to where Eric is not here to kind of like punish me for making mistakes and tell me what exactly happening there. But basically, your server can still accept more requests. You're kind of like delegating it to somebody else. And basically what happens is that right now, file system IO is actually using thread pool, but it might be in a few years that people will create different libraries that will let you do even file system in a totally evented approach. But for HTTP call or database call, which is usually using the socket, that's the trick. So you see here FDS, it's file descriptors, right, which represent a socket in this case. So basically, you're making an HTTP call to Twitter. Your kernel listens to sockets, and it's doing this poll pseudo function. Hey socket, are you done? The Twitter came back with a JSON and you're done. That's it. You just listen to sockets. And whenever it's done and you get ready, okay, whenever it's ready for me, then I'm going to my queue and pull the callback that I passed previously, and here's your callback.
What kind of database support is there for?
The main database that the Node guys are using, the two main databases, usually Redis. That's like almost every application I've seen like using Redis, because it's a key value and it's super fast and it's memory and and MongoDB because it's schemaless and it's easy. But there's drivers for MySQL, and I think that I saw one for Oracle as well. So if you do npm search, you'll find. Let's see if we find anything for Oracle. Yeah, this one I found DB Oracle, I think. So I can do npm docs. It will open DB. Let's see. So docs will open the README for us. Let's try this guy. Okay, you will see here that even if I'm making connection, the last argument, that's the convention of Node guys, the last argument will be your callback. In this case, it's an anonymous function, right? And only after the connection was established, then your callback is being called. So, but while you're making the connection, your server or whatever your code is doing can accept more requests. So you'll see the patterns throughout Node code, always passing a function. It's sometimes going to look like an anonymous function like this. And if you don't know what it is, basically it's a function with no name, but you can name it if you want. There's two types of functions in JavaScript. There's expression and there's declaration. And there's different nuances between them. And some people don't like it. And somebody created this coffee script that only gives you one of them. But this is an anonymous function. So here I can execute, commit, can roll back, and it's all passing a function. So, and if I open, let's see, I'm using, I think it's called MongoDB. It's going to be very similar. Okay, new DB connection, and then insert. So I'm inserting this object, right? That's how Mongo works. It's just JSON object. And when the insertion was completed, then I'm going to be here in the callback. And then I can do some assert, count, or whatever I want. So, okay, let's continue, I think. Let's see if there's anything interesting here. Yeah, I think that's about it. So let's start with hello world. Let's build a little server, web server in Node. Let's do it. Okay. First thing I'm going to do, HTTP. I'm going to use require. Require is a function in Node that you can, just like in Ruby, you can get gems into your program. HTTP is going to be the library or the module that I'm going to use. Unlike Ruby, you don't need to get an external files or sources to have a server. It's built in, because that's what Node is. It's for building network applications. So HTTP is there. Now HTTP holds an object, and this object has at least one function that I know of. Oops. Create server. Not very surprising. And I believe that create server accept function, request and response. Oops. Now, I think it's something like this. Okay. Can somebody turn the light off? I'll try it if the lights will not. Why not? Is it better? Okay.
The only thing is that red.
Yeah. Sorry about this. So I need to also tell him to listen on a port. Node. So you just go to the Node.js website and you can install it on any platform. Windows, it also works. Linux, Mac. Okay. Okay. Got hello world. So that's basically it. So this is nice. What happened here is that every time there is a request to your server, this function is being called, this anonymous function, and Node itself passing the response and the request objects into it. And it's interesting objects. It's called event emitters. They can emit events. This is something that the Node guys added. I think. I don't think it, in JavaScript client side you have event emitters. Correct me if I'm wrong. So some of the events that they can emit. Actually, maybe I'll do something else. Let's do this. Server, create server, because this is like a syntactic sugar of what we just wrote. I want to show you the events, and then I can do server on. Whenever you emit the request event, I want to execute this function. This listen doesn't belong here anymore, right? This listen will be here right now. Server dot. Okay, so I have this object, which this one is an HTTP server object. We can look at the docs later to see what's going on there, but it emits the whenever the request comes, the request event will be called, and then I'll be. Let's see if it actually works. Let's change it to just hello. Actually, we can do it here, right? We can do it from the curl. I'm gonna curl it. Okay, so we did the same stuff, but now I wanted you guys to see the idea that there's a request event that I'm responding to. Now let's show you how to debug an application. I can do also. Actually, let's show you the aspect that nothing that IO is not blocking us. So I'll try to create maybe with the. I think I did before set timeout. So I'm going to do set timeout of so let's do this. I want to print here. So the response object, I have a few functions. One of them is end that you saw, but I can also do write. Write meaning that don't end the session, don't send stuff to the client, just write something. So I want to write hello, and I want to do the ending here. inside my set timeout, and I believe that I need to pass seconds to timeout, right? Let me just stare at the code and see if it makes sense. So what I'm doing, I'm accepting request, I'm printing hello, and then I'm saying, wait for 5 seconds. When you're done waiting, then print hello. Cool. In Ruby, I would do it with what? Sleep maybe, or Python. I'm not sure what Python. But in Ruby, your server will just wait and will not accept more requests, right? But here, we're giving this function, this anonymous function, we're adding it to the queue that the event loop will listen to. And every tick, it's called a tick, the event will say, hey, are you ready for me? Are you ready to be executed? And if the answer will be yes, then our function will be called. That's why it's important to, in your function that you're passing, make sure that you don't use any blocking I/O. You don't use a library that will block you or crazy CPU stuff, because it's part of, I didn't mention it, but it's all single threaded. We're back in your thread. You don't want to block the request by doing so. Make sure that even in your function, you're doing using evented libraries, which it's going to be the case most of the time, because the whole approach of Node is everything should be asynchronous. Unlike Python and Ruby, in Ruby you can use event machine maybe. In Python you can use twisted, but the Python was created, they didn't think about this stuff, and it wasn't ready for the libuv. Is pretty recent addition, the C library that gives us this magic. Only a few months ago they came up with this. They had other libraries, and I know that the guy, I can't mention his name, he's doing stuff with Perl and with Unix, and I came to him a few weeks ago and he's like, oh, event loop, man select underscore something, and I looked, and yeah, he was right. It exists for like 20 years in the Unix world, and we just discovered it. I discovered it, 2 months ago. The nice thing about libuv is that Microsoft actually joined a few months ago, and they're really like big into the whole Node stuff. They understand that that's might be the future, and libuv is cross-platform, so it works on multiple like Windows servers as well. Before it was a little bit of a hassle to make it work on. Every like BSD is different. The polling libraries are different than on Windows. Let's give it a try. Let's see what happens. What I want to happen is that I will be able to execute multiple requests. Right? Yeah.
I want to change the second one to like world or something, so it's a little more clear what's going on.
Yes. So now something that I'll tell you later on, but there's something called supervisor. It's another Node package that I'm just npm install supervisor, and then it will always, you don't need to like constantly run your server. It will refresh it for you. I'll leave it later on, but okay right now. Okay, now let's curl it here. That's not cool.
Makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah, I would expect to see hello. Let me see.
Flush it.
Huh?
You sure you're not trying to do like console.log instead of?
Let's see. I think I have it. I wanted to do it like live coding. It's more fun than. I think it's right here. I think it was the same. Okay. We got hello, and after 5 seconds, we're gonna see world. Now, if I'm gonna open, let's do it. I'll open multiple windows. Let's take our server here and move it to a different window. No, I'm gonna run it here. I don't care about this. Okay. Now here, I'm gonna do curl as well. Localhost, right? And here too. And let's do another one here. Okay. I'm gonna run quickly and hit enter on each of them. 1, 2, 3. Okay? Hello, hello, hello. We're still accepting requests. Does it make sense? So we didn't really go to sleep. And there was a poll that servers were asked, and 9 out of 10 servers said, we're bored. We want to do something. We don't want to wait. So that's what we do. We give them what they want.
How are the limits determined?
How are they what?
When is it going to stop accepting connection?
Never. I mean, you're going to hit, you might hit, I guess, limits. You think about it. Eric? Huh?
You limit.
In terms of, I know that there is one limitation that I know that it runs under the V8, and in a 64-bit computer, you have 1.7 memory limit in each of your machine. But the way to scale it basically is to just use multiple cores, and there's actually, and each of the nodes can run on different core, and then you need to communicate between those processes, and you usually use something like Redis. Redis has a nice publish, subscribe kind of features that people are using. And there's actually a library called cluster. Just require cluster, and then it will know how to do it for you, and it can run on the same port, so whatever port you want, but on the same, so you have multiple instances, depending on how many cores you have on the same machine. Let's do some debugging. I want to show you how to debug something. I mentioned closure. So if I do something like this, let's say I have a variable. It can be whatever I want, hash, or just a number. Now, this anonymous function, when you create it, it can access it. It's part of the scope of this function. Okay. So it's also available, this variable, this user's variable, when it's executed, and it's important. And if you have nested function inside and more functions that you're calling, it can be calling Twitter, I'm calling LDB, I'm calling whatever resource, I'm calling something. All of those functions inside will have access to this user's variable. So that's the idea of a closure. I'm closing the variables. So I can do stuff like users, right? And now I can run with the debug. Oops, I need to do something like debugger. And it stopped in the first line. Now I'm going to make a request. I need to hit, let's do help. Oops. Let's do continue. Okay. Now I'm here. Now I can go to the REPL. I don't remember what REPL stands for, but that's kind of like the command line. I can do users. Okay. So that's kind of like how the debugger works, and it's the same debugger that you have if you're using Chrome. It's the V8 debugger. Okay. So then I can hit continue, and I can accept more requests. So yeah, I think that's it for kind of like hello world demonstration. Let's move on. Okay, here I just wrote a bunch of packages that I really like. So NVM is the way I use to install multiple versions. Now we're in version 0.8.1, and every few weeks there's another version. So you can do NVM list similar to RVM. And I only have one usually. You can install from source. You can just get like on Debian. I used to do it until I discovered NVM, but you can get it from source, and then you can do, get the tag that you want and config, make install if you want. So supervisor is the stuff that I mentioned before. It can let you run on development time, kind of like Shotgun for Sinatra. You don't need to refresh your browser. Forever is really nice, and I'll show you. It lets you. It will make sure that if your server crashed, it will rerun it. Yeah, I'll show it later. Mocha is a nice testing framework that I like. It seems like it's getting a lot of traction right now. I used to have like Jasmine. I still like it, but Mocha seems to get a lot of momentum. It's very nice, even for asynchronous testing. It takes care of it. Express is a framework which I'll probably if I have time, I'll show it to you. But it's kind of like the Rails in terms of adoption, but it's more of like Sinatra in the way it looks like, which I like because it's very, very tiny and only give you like the routing aspect and some security stuff and nothing more. It's not like a big MVC stuff. If you want, you can do MVC, but sometimes you don't even have to. Socket.io is pretty awesome. It's a way to emit messages, or send messages between a server and a client. So for any real-time stuff, that's a really big topic. And if you compare the Node knockout is the Node competition of like 48 hours, you sit with eating spaghetti and pizza and you code. So if you compare Node, the knockout competitions to the Rails Rumble, I think, and over the years, you'll see the different type of application. The Rails guys building more like find the next beer to get drunk, right? And the Node guys are being like real-time application, like a game, Pac-Man on the server. So you see the differences. So Socket.io is a really, really brilliant library that knows you can send messages between server and a client back and forth, and it will use WebSockets. Sorry, forgot the name. Web workers. What's the name of the technology that you can push stuff to the client on modern browsers? WebSocket. If it can't, we'll use WebSocket, and if it won't be able to, we can use some polling, or even Flash has a capability to do the push. It will figure it out, whatever the client is, and especially for mobile device, it works. Most of the mobile devices, so you can just push stuff to the browser, to the mobile browser. And I think that's kind of. Let me just talk about Dnode. Dnode is the guy who created his Substack. Google for him. He's just a genius. He's an evil genius. And basically, what Dnode lets you do is that you want to communicate between your servers. You can execute a function that sits on a different process on a different server. Okay, and you also have the callbacks. I don't know how he's doing it. He was in LA actually. The Node guys. We invited him here to present in one of the Node meetups. Yeah. So I think that's where Node shines over the traditional, Ruby or Java or what we used to. Is that a few years ago, usually you had one database that you're communicating against, right? And it makes sense to have an MVC and a model, and the model is met to maybe with active record to maybe a table or two or three, but that's usually how it was meant to be. But then today we have like 7 databases and a load balancer, and you need to communicate with them, and you have tweeters, and you have multiple HTTP calls that you're making all over the place, and then there's services that call your server, so you need to maintain state a little bit, and you have like Apple with a push notification, and it's total chaos, and it's really hard. So that's where Node is, I believe, will dominate, and that's Rails dominated, and it still is, in the more traditional style applications and MVC, I guess. It's not really Rails. It's MVC, I think it made an impact on the software world, but I think that now things just changed. And the libuv library that I mentioned is actually being used and being ported. And there's now, a week ago, there was a Node conference in Portland. A guy created for Lua. So it's called Lua, I forgot the name, some funny name. And the performance was amazing because Lua is so small and the VM is so tiny and it's more efficient. So the benchmark showed that Lua had like 4 or 5 megabytes instead of 50 of Node. Doesn't mean that Node is done and we're going to switch to Lua, because there's still the community aspect that you just can't ignore. But for the whole set of small devices and embedded devices, and if you guys know about Raspberry Pi, it's like at $30. And you buy it, and you have a complete computer with networking, with HDMI. It's small, so there are going to be a lot of companies. Maybe the next Google is being built right now with those devices and small little robots that communicate. They're going to put Node or Lua or whatever, but it's going to use maybe the libuv library that gives you the whole event loop, which you just missed, so you don't know what event loop is. I'm sorry. So yeah, that's just code. So there's a few ways to organize your JavaScript, or in a client, on the server. There's CommonJS. It's a one way. Another one is ADM. So the Node guys pick the CommonJS, which I like. And the next version of JavaScript is ECMAScript 6. I think gonna do something similar. There's a new keyword called module. Might be similar. I'm not sure. But that's how you organize your code in Node. So on the left side, I'm using my module that I created. So it's the same function required that we used for HTTP. I can use it for my own modules, right? And this is my module. In this one, I have one function that I want to expose to the world, and it's get user. And the way to expose a function is to just assign it into the export. Okay? So if I do module of export equals whatever, this whatever will be exposed. So get user here has a function, one function, which is this one. And here I'm going to make a call to my database, and I will return. I'm going to call my callback. I'm going to call the anonymous function, which is this guy, with null. And this is a convention in Node. The first argument of your callback will be error. And if there is no error, pass null, which is nice. And I'm going to pass the user, which I got from the database. Let's assume that I did get it from the database. And then I have it here. And I have if. If there's an error, display it. And if there is no, do something with it. In this case, it might be maybe I'm getting the ID of the user, and then I'm making another call, another HTTP call to whatever, to Twitter, to get all the tweets or something. Okay, so I can nest here, make another call if I want it to be sequential. Sometimes I want it in parallel. So it depends on what I'm doing. That's kind of like we're getting into the control flow, which I have a few pieces of code to show you. Let me just show you maybe in the terminal how it looks like. So I can do, okay. Let's see if I can require it from here. Require models. Use, yeah. And let's put it inside this guy. Okay. So I have one function here, and I can call it. Okay, but it want me to call it with a function. Okay. Now let's change it a little bit. Let's change this guy here, and let's expose. I can expose more than one function, right? Like what if I want to? Let's say I'm communicating, I'm accessing some information from a user tables. So I want get user, but I want also to save a user, right? So I can do something like this. Get user. Okay. So now I'm still, what is returned from this module is the export object. But now I just add a key to the export object, because in JavaScript, similar to Ruby, you can add as many keys as you want to an object, right? So this key has a function in it. And then I can do something like this. Let's add something else. Let's do save user too. And this will be another function. Let's do it like this function. Let's name it. Right? Saving. So what I'm showing you here is that you can expose an object and not a function. So you can have in your object multiple functions, right? Now if I'll do, let's see if I can copy paste here. Anybody can want to debug my code? One more line. This guy? Oh. I'm confused. Okay. Can I do this? Wait, is this gonna work? Let's give this one. Let's do this one. Okay. Okay. So that's CommonJS. That's how you modularize your code. And the interesting piece here is that this crazy guy Substack created this library or a package called Browserify, which I'm using. And what Browserify lets you do is a command line tool that you can turn your client-side code into this whole CommonJS principles, and you can modularize your client-side code. And I started doing it, and I just love it because I just don't know how to organize my client-side code. And this is a great way. So I think we're done with CommonJS. Okay. In this piece, I want to show you how to make GET requests and POST requests. So here, I'm using a very, very nice package. It was written by one of the main core Node guys. His name is Mikhail. I don't know how to pronounce his name. It's called request. And I'm just requesting, in this case, the tweets about Node.js. It's Twitter API. And you can see that I'm passing a function. Okay. And if there's no errors, I want to parse it, and I want to see the text of each tweet. Nothing too fancy. Get. Okay. Ooh, that's cool. That's interesting stuff. There was a guy who showed a robot that he created with, oops, I forgot the H. He created a robot with Node, and he showed it in Portland in the conference. Or is the Node robot? I'm not sure, or maybe not. Anyway, so let's show you another interesting thing here. Let's take it out. Comment this. Now I'm going to show you streaming. I'm still using the same library, request library. Now I'm asking for an image. I just Google for big cat on Google. And yeah, there's request library. What it returns is it's called readable stream. So we have two types of streams. I didn't really talk about stream, but maybe I should. So stream is the way in Node to tell you that you get chunks of information. You get buffer information, and you can do something with it. You can pipe it just like in Unix when you do pipe. You do cut of something and you do pipe into something else. So you can pipe a stream, a readable stream, into a writable stream. If you remember from the request and response, the request was a readable stream, and the response that we got in the HTTP was a writable stream. What I'm doing here, I'm piping this image chunk by chunk, but this library that the guy wrote is hiding this stuff from me, all the chunks for me. I'm writing it, I'm piping it into a writable stream. So I want to save an image of a cat on my hard drive. Let's see. Okay, we got a big cat. What you didn't see here is that it actually was chunk by chunk that was received. It's again, we're talking about event emitters. Event was emitted that says, hey, data arrived. So I chunked it just into a variable, and then at the end there's an event called end, and then I'm just saving it. But this nice library hide it from us. But I want to show you how to do it without using the library, because why not? It's fun. Not sure if it's in this file. Here, let's do post. Let's see this guy. So yeah, I implemented them. I'm working on a little website for Sal. Sal want to get very, very big, because 200 pounds is not enough. Actually, I want to get big too. So I'm punching in what I'm eating. Oh, I ate chicken, so boring. And I implemented, if Andrew can tell us from Hacker News yesterday, where's Andrew? There was a new way to authenticate, kind of like OpenID that failed. Now they came up with browser ID, and yesterday they changed it to persona. So I implemented persona. You basically need to, it's really nice, and I'll show you later. I'm doing a post, okay? I'm posting to browser ID servers. And here I decided to use the Node way of doing things, like, or the Node libraries, and not using any abstraction. So you can see that I'm making HTTP request, okay? Request is another function that can use the same HTTP library that we saw before. And I'm passing options, and in the options, it's very verbose, as you can see. I'm passing the host and the method and the headers. Kind of annoying, right? And the second argument is a function, anonymous function. And here I'm saying I want it to be a UTF-8. And this is the data variable that I'm going to slowly get in the data event. And I'm adding it chunk by chunk, okay? And at the end, I'm gonna get the end event, okay? And here I'm doing a nice eval. Is there a security guy here? Is there anybody from security? They're like falling from their chair now and like calling their boss, like, what the fuck? I got a paper from the security guys a few days ago, and it was there. So basically, just like XSS cross-site scripting on the browser, you guys on the server now. So instead of stealing your cookie, they can have a DOS attack by doing something like, if a hacker knows to pass data, it looks like this. Guess what? CPU blocked. It's not an I/O. We're blocking. Your server is not going to be answering any calls. And you can also do something like this. You can require file system. This is a library to save files or create files. And let's create, I don't remember the exact, whatever, evil file. And it's going to be a binary file, right? And then let's execute the file. So I can do whatever I want. I can destroy the system. I can take all my files and move it to whatever remote server. So just don't use eval. And if you're using a package from npm, do an ACK or ACK, whatever you pronounce it, on evals. Another security problem, which is not specific to JavaScript or Node, is MySQL or NoSQL injections, which you need to be careful of. But so yeah, it's kind of a joke here. So the end event, and then I'm basically just bringing it to the console. And that's about it. And then let's see what happens. Okay, I got something. It's not the right certificate, but that's kind of a post. Okay. Anything interesting here? Yeah, that's the same kind of idea, but using the library that I talked to you before called request. And look how nice. It's nicer than dealing with. Sometimes I don't care about all the events. Sometimes I do. Maybe I want to send back to the browser the process, the progress, right? So I can just emit something maybe with socket.io or with whatever, give the status to the browser. So it really depends on what you're doing. Oops. Don't care about this. Okay, streams. So let's see what we have. Streams. So here I want to stream an image from my hard drive and show it to the browser. So I have an image of my dog Guinness. Yeah, let's just run it and see if it works. I need to pass the number of the image. I have a folder with images. So actually, I have it here. This guy. I know I have one. I think it's 1.jpg. Ooh. Okay, so yeah, I can display images. So let's see what I did here. I'm just getting here the request.url to get the one, right? This is the current directory, and then I'm creating this guy. Let's move this a little bit to here. Okay, I'm creating this fs.createRead stream. I'm creating this readable stream, and I can just pipe it into the response. Why? Because I can pipe readable streams to writable streams, and we know that the response is a writable stream. And I had to do this stuff because it asked for the fav icon or whatever you pronounce it. So I just didn't care about this stuff, and I put it in the error. And I think, yeah. And now let's do something similar, but I want to show you the buffer, that it's like getting chunk by chunk and not in one piece. Let's see. So what I'm going to do. I think I have the code here, comment. Oh, yeah. Oh, this is what I wanted to show you guys. Let's move it here. Stream on data. Yeah, so we don't need the pipe anymore. Let's get rid of this. Okay. and we'll do kind of like the manual work because I want to show you how it looks. And I have a console.log. I want to console the chunks that I have here. Okay. Let's see. I'm gonna run the same stuff. Ooh. Okay. Chunk arrived. So this is one chunk. And there's another chunk. So you see that event was called data event was called multiple times. And yeah. Let's see. I have another issue. I want to show you this one. So here I'm doing the same stuff we did before with the big cat. Okay, let's take this, and I'm using this request image here. I'm requiring this request library, which we already used before. We did post with it, right, and maybe even a get. So I'm requesting this big cat image, and I'm piping it into the writable stream. Okay, so in one line, I'm going to. So now it doesn't even matter what I'm passing in the path. Okay. So that's it about this piece. In this example, I want to show you that I'm using processes. So I'm going to spawn a new process here. So are you guys familiar with ImageMagick? So there's commands that can use a command line. So I can just use convert that will resize my image. Okay. So I'm basically spawning a new process, and this process emits events. So I'm going to take the std out and pipe it into the response. Okay, so I'm piping the image after it was shrinked by the by ImageMagick into my response. So let's run like this, resize, and I need to pass also the size that I want. So now I'm going to say I want image number 1, and I want it to be 600 by 600. Let's shrink it a little bit, see if it actually worked. Okay, so yeah, I just use a separate process that with ImageMagick. I want to show something important actually, that is the API to see how to navigate yourself in this new world. It's very, very nice documentation. For example, let's look at the HTTP library. Tell me if it looks familiar. For example, create server. We use this guy. Okay. And this is an event emitter, the server itself, and it emits events. And one of the events is the request that we used. And they have request and response, the object that we know, right? Same with, let's see, streams or file system or whatever. Let's see streams here. Here's a readable stream. Whoop. Nice. Readable stream, and let's see pipe. We did use the pipe, right? Here, stream.pipe. Okay. So every stream has a pipe, and you basically connect it. You pipe it to destination write stream, which we did. Okay. So I think we're good with streams. This one is an example for Socket.io. I want to show you the real-time aspect of Node. Let's run this stuff. Let's see what my IP is. Maybe you can. Can you guys connect? 1045 1473. Do you have laptops? You want to connect to my my machine? 1045 1473 colon 3001. Yeah. And I have issues with Firefox. If you have Chrome, it will be nicer, but we'll see. I just did this morning, so ooh. Cool. So basically, it's a simple chat. Liz woke up. Good. Also, Android, it's using Bootstrap, so you should be happy. So let's quickly show you what I did here. This is the client side. It's myscript.js. This is just simple HTML5, right? Nothing fancy here, but there's one important piece. It's this guy here. It's a Socket.io client library. Okay, so you just put it here. And this is my client script, and I'm doing io.connect. I'm connecting to my server, and this is the server code. And also I'm showing you Express. That's the Sinatra or Rails type library. So I'm using it here. I'm just requiring it here, and I'm doing Express create server, and that's it. I have a server running. And then I can do similar to Sinatra, configure the application, and this is the root. Any request to my root, execute this function here, and basically serve index.html. And then listen to this port. It's very nice. Abstraction on top of HTTP library. And here the nice little Socket.io stuff. So I'm listening. So the server is listening. And then on connection, I'm listening to the data event. Okay? And data event is being sent here. See this say? Say is executed whenever you click here. What I'm doing is socket.emit. Okay? And I can call it whatever I want to call it. I can call this Andrew here. As long as here it would be Andrew. Okay? So I'm passing messages between the client and the server back and forth. Okay? And I can pass objects. I don't have to pass a string, which I am, but I can pass whatever object I want. So that's how I communicate, and then I pass something back to the client and add something to my text area. So that's about it. And there's way more things to share and stuff that I want, multiple applications and services that I built even here. And we're running out of time. So if you guys want to continue the conversation, we can have another tech talk in the future. We can talk on, we have like a secret kind of like Fight Club group nobody knows about, nobody tells about it, but we're sending emails to each other about 5 a.m. This is amazing, performance was improved because V8 is awesome. So if you guys want to be part of this Fight Club, send me an email. Thank you.